All right, so we're preparing for our test tomorrow on cells. Two main types of cells. You can see that one's bigger and has a bunch of stuff inside. Those things inside are called organelles. I know they're organelles because they have this membrane, they have this outer layer, so I know it's a membrane-bound organelle. The main head honcho organelle is, of course, going to be the nucleus with the DNA inside. And you can tell that this cell has a bunch of stuff inside, while this cell doesn't have any of those membrane-bound structures, none of those ovals, membranes inside of there. So I know the one with the nucleus, the one with organelles, is going to be a eukaryotic cell. And the one with no nucleus is going to be a prokaryotic cell. Pro means no. Technically it means before the nucleus, but it sounds like no. Pro means no. It's going to have no nucleus and no organelles. Best example of a prokaryote is going to be a bacteria. While the examples of eukaryotic cells that we're talking about in class are plant and animal cells. Of course, there's also fungi, which I mentioned. There's also protists from the amoeba sisters. Highly recommend amoeba sisters to study. They're, of course, eukaryotes too, but we're going to learn about plant and animal cells. You need to know the difference between those. Other things in the cell, the liquid in the cell is called the cytoplasm. The outside boundary, what holds the cell in, is the cell membrane. And, of course, these teeny tiny dots that do so much for the cell are called ribosomes. All cells have 4 main parts. All cells have DNA. All cells have a cell membrane, the outer boundary to the cell. All cells have a cytoplasm, the liquid inside the cell. And, of course, all cells have ribosomes. Why, of course, do they have ribosomes? Because ribosomes decode the DNA. So if you have ribosomes, if you have DNA, you must have ribosomes in order to convert that message from DNA into proteins. So 2 main types, eukaryotic cells with a nucleus, prokaryotic cells, no nucleus. All of them have DNA, membrane, cytoplasm, ribosomes, and bacteria is the best example for a prokaryotic cells. Let's talk more about eukaryotic cells. They have organelles. Organelles are tiny structures inside cell that have a specific function, which is fun. They have a specific job inside of the cell. Cytoplasm, not really an organelle, but you do need to know that the cytoplasm is in there, and it is a jelly-like fluid. That's all you need to know for our test tomorrow. Jelly-like fluids, where all the stuff is inside the cell. Nucleus. What's inside the nucleus? Very important. It contains the DNA. And thus, because it contains the DNA, it is said to control the cell. It's the command center of the cell. Ribosomes. They make protein. You will see, you might have seen that they're on the endoplasmic reticulum, which is responsible for transportation inside the cell. We don't need to know the ER for the test. We don't need to know Golgi. That's involved with packaging and processing, kind of like the post office. And we don't need to know lysosome for our test. Mitochondria. It makes energy. Spelling is hard. We are going to see that energy molecule for the cell is called ATP. And it's going to make energy from glucose, sugar. That's why we eat, to make energy. Vacuole, just involved in storage. It's like our closet. It's large and in charge in plant cells. Cell wall is involved with structure and support. It's going to help provide structure to the plant cell. It's going to be like stronger. Animal cells don't have it. They're more fluid. Animals move more than plants. And plants don't have things like bones, so they're going to need structure and support in a different way. Chloroplast is the location of photosynthesis, H-E-S-I-S, and it's going to make sugar. Specifically, it makes glucose using the power of the sun. Glucose. That seems important. It's using glucose up there. Cell membrane is this fluid lipid bilayer on the outside of the cell, and its job is to controls what goes in and out of cell. The cell wall doesn't do that. The cell wall has pores. Things go right through the cell wall. It's just responsible for structure. There's like holes in the side. While the cell membrane is controlling what's going in and out of the cell. Like some things can go right through, like oxygen. Yay, we need oxygen in all our cells. But other things like glucose, you need energy in order for that to enter the cell. So there's a lot of things when it comes to the cell membrane and how it functions. It's controlling things. The cell wall is not. Cell wall is like the walls to our building, and the cell membrane security, letting things in and out. Things only in plant cells compared to an animal cell is a cell wall and chloroplast. But don't forget that the vacuole is very large in plant cells compared to animal cells. Speaking of which, if you go to the labeling page, you could label any of these small structures, the vacuole, while this is the animal cell, of course. And then down here, I know it's a plant cell. It's a square, rectangular shape. They have a very defined shape in the plant cell because it has the cell wall. The vacuole in the plant cell is large. It takes up most of the space. Don't forget we have the cell wall on the outside and the plant cell, while in the animal cell on the outside is the cell membrane. Plant cells do have a cell membrane, because all cells do, but that cell membrane is just inside of that cell wall. It's going to be that cell membrane. Other structures you need to know on the plant cell. The liquid, of course, is still the cytoplasm. The little dot thingies are the ribosomes that make the protein for the cell. We got liquid, we got dot thingies. This nucleus is terrible. I am so sorry that you got this worksheet with this terrible nucleus. It looks much better on the animal cell. But the nucleus contains the DNA. And now we have these two bean-shaped structures. You need to know the difference between them. If it's a plant, it has both. If it's an animal cell, it's absolutely the mitochondria. The way you tell them apart is by the way the membranes are inside. With the chloroplast, you're typically going to see these stacks of membrane inside, while in the mitochondria, you're going to see these like wavy inner membrane. So the inner membrane does look different. Typically, the chloroplast is going to be depicted green, because it is green. Mitochondria, oddly, is depicted pink, but it's not really pink in real life. It doesn't have that kind of specific color. But the chloroplast, if it's green, it's probably the chloroplast. And they're both have similar shape and size. Animal cell, same thing. Same stuff. Nucleus is in the middle. We know this is the mitochondria. It's bean-shaped. We know the liquid inside the cell, of course, is the cytoplasm. And we know these dot structures, though horribly drawn, is going to be the ribosomes, which make the protein. If we were learning the ER, you would learn that the dots, these ribosomes, are also on the ER right there. And I think that's it. We've got vacuole, cell membrane, ribosome, mitochondria, nucleus. So hopefully this will help you study for your test tomorrow, knowing the differences between a prokaryotic cell and a eukaryotic cell. Pro sounds like no, because it has no nucleus, and U sounds like true or do, because it does have a nucleus. It has a true nucleus. While plant versus animal, they're both eukaryotic, but the plant cell is going to have the chloroplast, because it produces sugar from sunlight, photosynthesis, and it's going to have the cell wall, which gives it its structure. Let me know if you have any questions.